Welcome back. I'm Randy, and we're going to talk about why we don't just do this or just do that when it comes to the two tether. So this is the two tether current version I use for 2025, and I'll get this kind of laid out here. We can look at it. Right. This is my right stirrup, Etrier style stirrup, and this is the left. Let's see. And there's the left. Here's the right. This is one continuous rope from that end. This would be my right tether. This forms a girth hitch around the tree. It comes down through the friction hitch here. I use a VT. It comes down. Here's a loop that comes back up to the left tether and ends here at this girth hitch. The reason why you don't want to split your tethers in two is because you eliminate the chance of doing a rappel with this. So I have I started with a total of 30 foot of the Sterling HTP. I like this. It's all nylon, and it does not mildew or any of that other stuff those Plux or some of those other ropes do. So this is the 9mm Sterling HTP. If you keep this all in one piece, I can rappel down any height tree with this, on account of how everything is designed here, and I'll get to that. But this is the carabiner. This is a connection to you, would be to your saddle bridge right here. This could be done with two separate hitch cords. That's a preference thing. If you don't mind them clinking into each other, and then this is just I hate cutting ropes and cords unless I absolutely have to, so this is just extra length for now. This just helps me tighten and tune these hitches up. If these were separate, they'd be easier to tie and to tune separately. But anyway, people ask, why don't you just do this, or why don't you just do that? And there's a reason for everything on this. There's you're looking at about 46 years worth of experience in climbing trees for hunting with this. So starting on the end with the what I call the bypass link, this performs the function of a some guys would use one of these quick links, which I don't think is quick at all, but if you're going to call this a quick link, see how long it takes to open this thing. Mind you, you're going to do this when it's 10 degrees out, you're up in the wind, as opposed to open, closed, and this does not come open while you're using it unless you intentionally grab it here and pull this open. So that's why we don't use these. This doesn't make it doesn't side load, doesn't have that issue. It doesn't make any noise. It doesn't really add any weight. There's other versions of this that don't use this hitch cord as a stopper, but this is the most useful version. This just helps us pull that back and set this up for ground release mode. So that's why we don't just use a quick link. If anyone's trying to sell you a 2-tether and it doesn't have a stiff section like this one telescopes for most size trees that you can actually hunt from, down to about as small as you want to go on a tree to support your weight. But if you don't have this kind of tubing or something that stiffens this rope up, it's going to be hard to climb with. So that's why you don't just go with a bare rope where it goes around the tree. So the other end is the only difference is they're tied. These bypass links are tied opposite hand. So they're symmetrically opposite, like that. It just makes using them a little easier. You could tie them both the same way, but you'd end up with one of these would be upside down probably. The way this goes on the tree, this is the right tether, goes around the tree, and this would be passed from the left hand to the right, and it goes around the standing end of the rope and forms that hitch there. So that's that. This is not as complicated. It doesn't necessarily need to be tied with this. It can be tied with a stopper knot. It doesn't have to be wrapped here, but that's part of what makes it work for ground release. Specifically pulling this rope out of there. And then it doesn't really need this on it. It's just something that helps, and it doesn't really add any weight to speak of, and it's not in the way. So this bypass link you can work with gloves or mittens on. Well, the quick link is usually pretty much hopeless in any kind of terrible weather when your hands are numb. So that's why we don't just use a quick link. Coming down from each girth hitch end, we have so this would be the right stirrup or aider, etrier. See if I can show this thing. So that's the lowest. Here's the lowest foot loop here. 2, 3, and then this knot up here make sure that we have equal tension on both legs of this girth hitch. But I suppose it could be used as another foot loop if necessary, but when I started out using two tether, I had a single foot loop, and I found out that sometimes I just can't get my foot, it's either this loop's too low or it's too high to be useful. But if I got three, my initial adjustment for the tethers are simplified, and I could use it as a short section of ladder, or what some guys call aiders, or the mountain climbers call étrier. Just another, it's a French word for stirrup, I believe. But anyway, this friction hitch, when you adjust this, you slide it up and down the rope here, and when you put your weight in it, it grabs, and then it can work through this loop on the bypass link. So when we start to climb, the initial adjustment has, this is on the tree. We'd adjust this stirrup with the friction hitch just inside of this bypass link loop right here, because when you go to move up, so this would be on the tree, something like this, and when you go to move up, you're going to pull this open, and you don't want to have to, struggle past that bump there. So you just want this to freely open up. You move it up, you take your step up. It's a seamless movement, and then your sense of balance, or your ability to balance on one foot, becomes less critical. This so that's the initial adjustment for both of them. You'd set it up that way. Once the length of these are established, they're good for life, and or the life of the stirrup anyway, and they should not need any more adjustment other than what you do as you use this. So you start with the friction hitch up in here, up inside, and keeps things out of the way. And then as you climb the tree, you'll find that the tree gets smaller, and this works its way out here. And if you have to, you can always adjust that up inside more. But so that's the three-step aider. And this makes passing limbs a lot easier than it is with just a single foot loop. You lose that when you have that limb and you move your tethers above. You've moved, a limb will take up that much of the tree. Well, that's about half of your ability to step, or mine anyway. I'm an old guy and maybe less flexible than I used to be, but having a couple other steps available here makes that bypassing limbs easier, and I can link a video on how I do that with this type of stirrup setup. And then both ends and both stirrups are they go on the tree the same time. The only time you only have one is when you're bypassing a limb. You have one at a time, and then when you rappel, we'll talk about the rappel last. So as we come down here, I have 2 friction hitches, so a double connection to my saddle right here on this carabiner. Each tether is on the tree, so that's a double connection, and then becomes single here and then here, unless you did it slightly different here. That's not a big deal, but you want to have these this way so that when you rappel, so here's my right tether, that would be up the tree, and I would rappel down this rope, and this extra rope would work its way through here, until we get to this point. And you get all this twist out of here before you start. But anyway, so we rappel down, and now we rappel down towards the other tether. And if we're not at the ground yet, I leave this left tether on, and on the tree, and get my weight on it. So then now I would be hanging this way here, and I would pull the right down, and then I would just grab this here and pull down and rappel. Now I'm rappelling down from this tether. So now I just doubled with the same amount of rope. I just doubled the height I can rappel from. And I can repeat that process as I get to the other end of the rope. Get down here, and I'd put this back on the tree, and then I'd go down this way. So now I can rappel down any height tree by doing a multiple stage rappel like that. And then, so that's, let's see, hopefully that's kind of clear how the rappel works. If there's any specific questions on that, hit me in the comments. But and then the other thing I should mention here, when this carabiner is connected to your saddle bridge, and you have these ropes through the carabiner, and the way I keep these friction hitches short, I can tend either one right here, just like that. I get more slack, so when I climb, the right is the foot I advance, it's on top. That tether is usually on top, so I want more slack in that. I could reach up here and grab this and get more slack, so I can push this up about as high as I can normally reach without strain. And then the left, we don't want too much slack, so I can tend that up right there. Right there. Tend that right up, goes right up. So that's that. The other thing, I guess the other thing I do when I rappel, I will have, actually, I have this, I'll move this upper tether, and say it's going to be, this will be around the tree here, and then this friction hitch is on the outside. When it's time to rappel, so this is my right tether, I'll bring this down and I'll have my foot in one of these stirrups, and this carabiner is connected to my saddle, and I can rappel by pulling down here. And now I have redundancy in my rappel hitches. I have two here. So you don't want to necessarily rappel on this nylon. It's not high temperature, but most of your friction is going to be on this TRC, and this is good for 900 and some degrees. I have to look it up again, but it's almost it's over 900 degrees that this sheath on this hitch cord can take. So since it's passing over the nylon rope, no one section of the rope is getting overheated, but the hitch cord takes the heat, most of the heat. So that's how I rappel with this. I'll pull this down, and I've never had them run on me. If anything, in the past I've had friction hitches that kind of lock up on me, and I'd have to stop and get my weight off of this one and loosen everything up a little bit and then start back down. But now that I use these VT hitches, they don't tend to jam. What else? Everything except the carabiner costs you about $65 to make. And once you tie it and get everything tuned up, it's pretty much stable and trouble free. This nylon webbing as a friction hitch, I use a modified distal hitch, and so far it's really reliable. If anything, it might creep down on you a little bit until you get it set and kind of tuned in. But with this modification, that seems to have alleviated that issue. I think it's under 3 pounds total. And this is the whole thing. I don't need a stand to use this. I typically hunt with a rifle or crossbow, but I was a trad bow hunter for a long time, and I wouldn't have a problem shooting my recurve from this with just standing in the stirrups. Only thing I might do is if I had soft sole boots on, like waders or something like that, I make a wider stirrup and distributes weight on the arch of my foot and doesn't hurt so bad. Anything else? So it's some of the reasons why you don't just this or don't just that. This is a complete system. This is climbing, this is passing limbs, this is rappelling. This does everything you need to do with less rope. I had used 40 feet before, and I never had to do a 2-stage rappel. If you want to carry 40 feet of rope, more power to you, but I'm not big on that. I want something that is substantial enough that I feel secure with it, but it's not a burden. If I hunt all day, if I carry this all day long and never use it, just hunt from the ground, I don't say, I have never said, I wish I didn't bring this stupid thing, carry it with me all day. So, there's nothing to, when I walk in, this is on me, connected to my saddle, and I don't have to stop and take anything off. I have my weapon on, and I have my backpack over that. If I'm going in the morning in the dark, I can't use my weapon anyway, so the weapon's on. slung on over my shoulder or over my back, and then a backpack if I have it, and then this, and I put this on a tree. I get as high as I'm going to go, and then I'll take my backpack, and I usually just clip it in here and hang it right here. And then my weapon, I have a way, I set up like a lanyard to hang over my shoulder, because I never want to hang that on a hook or anything, and especially with a rifle, I don't want to drop it and have it fall on a buttstock and trip the sear, and then I'm downrange. Yeah, rappel, ground release, so I can open this. I can essentially untie this knot from the ground with just paracord. You don't need Dynaglide or any of that. Actually, counting on just doing a two-stage rappel. You count on doing a two-stage rappel, you need a whole lot shorter piece of paracord, so that when you pull this down, everything stays at the tree and it doesn't fly. I hunt in river bottoms where there's a lot of rose bushes in there. They can be 10, 12 feet high. And I got to crawl under them to get to the tree. And the last thing I want is 40 feet of paracord or Dynaglide and my rope falling in a big rose bush 12 foot off the ground and getting snagged. So the way this pulls apart is you got one loop on the paracord, pulls there, and then one loop will pull this out. This will open up, and the paracord falls free, and then this falls free from that, and it's open, and there's not a whole lot to snag anymore here. Falls to the ground. That's super reliable. I've tested this bypass link to about 2,000 pounds, and it will hold your weight without the locking piece in. It'll hold your weight just like that, believe it or not. Once you got it around the tree and you get this in here, it'll bite that so hard that won't pull out. You wouldn't use it that way, but anyway. So I might have missed some things, and I might have talked too long on others, but hopefully that's a better look at everything. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comments, and we'll dive into it a little more. I'm in southeast Michigan. If any of you ever want to maybe meet somewhere, some public land or whatever, park. We got a park nearby here. I go and climb, and you can give it a try there. Anyway, hope this helps. Thanks for stopping by.